Trial of God by Elie Wiesel. So, you may be familiar with the name of Elie Wiesel, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize and author of the renowned memoir Night, which is used rather widely, I believe, in schools to educate about the Holocaust with. But you may not be familiar with this work of his, The Trial of God, even though it is also a deeply personal work and one which has a certain degree of theological heft to it. But I shall, as per usual, tell you all about it. Although, before we talk about the story of the trial of God, let's talk about the story behind the story. So, apparently, while Elie Wiesel was an inmate at Auschwitz, he was witness to an impromptu trial of God held by some rabbis in the camp who undertook to indict the divine for the calamity which at the time was befalling the Jewish people. Because for being the chosen people, they certainly have a rather misfortunate history, it would seem. And so apparently these rabbis in Auschwitz took it upon themselves to, like I say, indict God for the sufferings of the Jewish people, and Elie Wiesel witnessed this. And apparently it really stuck with him, as such an occurrence might, and he wanted to write about it, but it took a while to figure out how to do it. This work is a play, but it is not set as might be expected from that background in the Holocaust. Rather, it is set hundreds of years before the Holocaust in 1600s Ukraine, in a small village named Shamgorod, which has recently been the victim of a pogrom in which all of the Jewish residents except two were slaughtered. The two remaining being an innkeeper named Barish and his daughter Hannah. And as the play opens, it is the holiday of Purim. And some traveling Jewish minstrels arrive in the inn to perform a Purim spiel, which is a play performed on the Jewish holiday of Purim. But Barish ain't having it. His days of making merry are pretty much over, because his entire family and all of his fellow Jews have been wiped out with the exception of his daughter, and she is mentally traumatized due to some extreme sexual assaults perpetrated against her, and he is not feeling it. He is not in the Purim mood, you might say. So the minstrels, whose names are Mendel, Yankel, and Avramel, are wanting to perform this play, but they don't know what to perform. And so finally, Barish is like, "If you want to perform, let's perform a legal play. Let's perform a trial, and let's indict the big man for all the sufferings to which we are prey, in which we have been subjected to." So eventually they undertake this trial of God, where they're going to, or Barish, acting as prosecutor, is going to lay out evidence of God's wrongdoing against his chosen people. But they can't find a defense attorney until a mysterious stranger who's known only as Sam volunteers to function as the defense attorney for God. And so they do the trial, but then a priest, who is a peripheral character, tries to persuade them to hightail it, because apparently the locals are up in arms again, and it looks like another pogrom is upon them, and all the Jews are going to be killed again, seemingly. So the priest is like, just skedaddle, get out. But then they're like, no, we got to do this play, because Barish is like, I want to speak my piece, right? I want to, pour out my grievances. in a legalistic fashion. So they perform the play, and the stranger, who we know only as Sam, basically offers a Job-like defense, in which he says, God made everything, including you. He can do whatever he wants to with you or any of us, and our duty as humans is to love and worship him regardless, in spite of calamity and misfortune. And then the pogrom is upon them. It ends as they're being attacked, and then the mysterious stranger reveals himself to be Satan, and that's how the play ends. That is the story of the trial of God. So let's talk about both the technical qualities of this work and also its thematic and theological qualities. So the writing in this, I mean, it's a play, so it's almost entirely dialogue other than stage direction. So the writing, I guess, will just restrict it to the dialogue, but it's pretty good. It really is. It feels very human, and it feels very pained, and you can definitely feel the anguish of this character named Barish, whose life has basically just been ruined due to the actions of the Christian population in close vicinity with whom he lives. And he definitely has a bone to pick with God. But you also feel through him perhaps should go without saying, the turmoil and theological wrestlings of the author himself, as he is putting these words into the mouth of this character and wrestling with whether God is, worth loving, even though he allows such horrible things to happen. But the other characters also feel very human, and the dialogue does what dialogue in a play should do, and it does make the characters distinct and make them each have kind of a unique personality. So it feels like really different people talking. So it works. It's a play, so the writing is, like I say, it's basically just dialogue, but it's good dialogue, and it does what the dialogue in a play should do. Now let's talk about the actual plot of this, because this is a 3-act play, but the titular trial of God only occupies the tail end of the 3rd act. It almost feels like a bait and switch, honestly. It's building up to this thing, but then when it actually gets there, it's kind of over and done very quickly. And there's a lot more, I think, that could have been said than was said, because honestly, it felt thin. It didn't feel nearly as comprehensive as it really could have been. And it really kind of fell back on the Job defense, kind of, which is, where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? Who are you, a mere mortal, to question the divine? It kind of just fell back on that, and that was kind of just that's the defense, right? Like I say, it's not a long work. It's how many pages is this? There's 161 pages of the play, but the actual trial only occupies maybe the last 25 or so. It's definitely fleeting. It's more build up than actual delivery, and I kind of thought that was a weakness, because, like I say, there was a lot more that could have been done and a lot more that could have been said, or so I think. But we can also talk about the kind of theological significance of the play, because it's definitely playing into, once again, the book of Job. It's kind of leaning on that classical line of thinking of, who are we to question the design of things and whatnot. But also, it's interesting because it toys with the notion of Satan, because there is a divide. There's a real distinction as regards the notion of Satan between Judaism and Christianity, because in Christianity, Satan is the devil, this malevolent entity which is ultimately responsible for all evil in the world, and which is a very active, like sentient being who is trying to mess things up. But in Judaism, the word Satan actually just means adversary or accuser. And that's why you can read like in the Old Testament, and there's like scarcely anything that even like approaches the notion of Satan as is in like the New Testament. And like in the book of Job, the entity in that book, which is denoted as Satan, is really more of like a prosecutor. It's like a legalistic kind of thing of trying this individual named Job and seeing if he'll crack, if he'll break. Again, there's the Jewish notion of Satan is not the same thing really as the Christian notion. The Jewish Satan is can denote any kind of adversary, but if it is a supernatural entity, it's generally just some kind of agent, which is meant to test individuals, not like the father of all evil as is conceived in the Christian tradition from the New Testament. But it's kind of an inversion here, because in the book of Job, the entity referred to as Satan is the one in that work which is tasked with putting Job to the test to see if he'll crack, to see if he will still hold fast to his belief in God and his reverence of God, or whether he will turn his back after enough misfortune. But in this work, it's different. The Satan figure is not the prosecutor, he is the defense. He is the only one that can be found to actually offer any kind of defense for the actions or inactions of God. So it's a nice little twist there, I thought. I did appreciate that. But the actual exchange between Barish and Sam is lacking, I thought, because it's just over and done with so fast. So much of this play is just build up, and then when the actual like proceedings happen, it's very, very transient. And like I said, I think there's a lot more that could have been said, because it feels too formal. It feels like too much of what you would expect out of this. It's just like, all my family and friends almost are dead. My life is ruined. Where was God? Jews have been mistreated for millennia. Why does this happen? And then the only defense that Sam offers is the old Job defense of, who are you to question? God made you. His ways are higher than our ways. Mysterious ways and all that. And then it's just kind of done. Like that's pretty much the extent of the actual trial of God. And like I say, for me, there was a lot more I think that could have been put into this, because it doesn't get as intensive with it as it really could have, I think. So even though I really am I'm really predisposed to like this work, because I like what it's doing. It's a play, and this is like something that's definitely suited to a play format, since most of it would just be dialogue anyway. I really like the format of it, and I like what it's going for, but the thing is that I just don't think it really got there. Like it had such potential, but it didn't really capitalize on that potential as much as I really thought it might have. So to rate The Trial of God by Elie Wiesel, I'm conflicted. It teeters on like B plus or A minus territory for me, because it's a very well done work, and it's very it's very suited to the format in which it is written, and it definitely has high aims. It's definitely wrestling with a very human, very perennially pertinent topic, but it doesn't wrestle with it enough. I didn't think. I thought that it could have been more intensive than it was. It could have been a little bit longer than it was. So B plus, A minus. I guess I'll give it an A minus, because there's not really anything like objectively wrong with it. It's just subjectively for me, I thought it really did not capitalize on its premises like it really could have and probably ought to have. But still, it is a fascinating work, and one that I think does have the potential to strike a chord with a lot of readers out there, perhaps people, not just Jewish people, but perhaps people, believing people out there who have undergone misfortunes and travails in their life. I think there's a great potential here for this work to resonate with certain readers out there. But once again, I do think it could have done more than what it ultimately did. So A minus, not a full A plus, or even just a flat A. A minus because it could have done more. But as it stands, it's pretty great work, honestly, and one that, like I said, is very suited to the format in which it is written. So yeah, for me, I'm going to give The Trial of God by Elie Wiesel an A minus. So The Trial of God by Elie Wiesel. Have you read The Trial of God? If you have, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it, whether you have agreed or disagreed with anything I've said about it here today. And if you haven't read The Trial of God, I could recommend this. I think it's a fascinating work that definitely has big things on its mind, but perhaps doesn't really articulate those thoughts and sentiments as much as it really could or should have. But still, it's a pretty roundly great work, so I could recommend it. And as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.